Good morning. Call the Economic Development Meeting to order at 4 a.m. Roll call, please.
As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Turner.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher. Here. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed in.
So we have the minutes from the prior meeting from April 14th. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting.
So moved.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Opposed? Thank you. All right. 2025-0212.
Resolution 2025-0212, adopting the 2025 Economic Development Plan in accordance with Section 7.05 of the Cuyahoga County Charter and Section 801.01 of the Cuyahoga County Code.
Good morning, Chair, Council President, members of the committee. I'm Paul Herdig with the Department of Development, and I'm pleased to come before you this morning to speak to you about this year's update of Cuyahoga County's 5-year economic development plan. Our charter calls for an economic development plan, and it calls for that plan to be updated every year. The charter also provides us with an economic development commission, which is what I would describe as a blue ribbon commission made up of the heads of some of the major economic development organizations in Cuyahoga County, as well as representation of the county executive and of the council, and the chair is currently council's representative on that commission. So in developing each year's economic development plan, we consult with and work closely with the members of our Economic Development Commission. This year, because there's been such significant change in the economy recently, we felt it was important to spend some time, and we actually engaged a consultant, a strategic planning consultant, Carolyn Taitch, to work with the Department of Development, the administration, and the commission in developing this year's economic development plan. We are all familiar with the events of the past 5 years. There's been such massive disruptions of the entire national economy due to COVID, due to remote work, due to some of the events that have taken place in the world. I need not even mention some of the recent events, but there's been such change, we thought it was important to kind of go back and do a traditional strategic planning process. This morning, Sharon, if we could start the presentation. On the next slide, here's my clicker. This morning, I'm going to give an overview of the plan, and then I'm going to call on two of our staff to go into a little more detail about two of the key things that the Department of Development is doing to implement our plan, our lending programs, our small business support programs. You have received, each member of council has received the current year's economic development plan. I'm showing on the monitors the key portion of this plan, which is a graphic presentation of its most important points. You've also received behind that some activities that the county will be carrying out over the next period of time, as well as some of the ways we're going to measure our progress. But the first and most important area I want to address is where we arrived in terms of high-level strategic pillars. As I noted, we had a consultant working with us, and with that consultant, we did what's traditional to be done when you're doing strategic planning. We consulted with a wide range of stakeholders, both private companies, other economic development organizations, other governments as well, to determine what was most important to them. This included holding 3 focus groups that actually involved mayors of a significant number of our suburbs. We rotated these groups around the county. We held them out at various city halls, and we heard directly from some of our mayors, as well as many of our economic development directors, what was most important to them. So based on this gathering of information, this consulting with stakeholders, and then some work that we did internally with staff, we have arrived at an updated vision, an updated mission statement for economic development, and then 4 strategic pillars. Our vision for economic development is empowering businesses and transforming lives. It's a short statement, but it encapsulates the fact that the main area of work we do is with private business. We are economic developers, and most of the economic work in Cuyahoga County is done by private business. We say that transforming lives is part of our vision because one of our most important goals in helping businesses to grow is providing good jobs for our residents. Because the number one need that our residents have is income in order to meet all their financial obligations. And for most of our residents, the way they earn their income is through work. So when we empower our businesses, we are creating and increasing the number of good jobs for residents and transforming their lives. Behind that is the mission statement we've arrived at. We view the mission of Cuyahoga County to inspire, support, and invest in businesses and in development to drive equitable economic opportunity. This recognizes that when we do our economic development work, we are supporting businesses, we are investing in projects. You know, this committee sees every year in the range of 6 to 8 projects where the county is directly investing money, and all of this is with the end of having economic opportunity for our residents. So at the next level, as we did our work with our stakeholders and our consultants, we identified 4 key areas. We call these our strategic pillars, where Cuyahoga County itself must be active in order to achieve our economic development vision. We're going to spend a little bit of time after I speak delving in some depth into one of these pillars, which deals with the work that we in the Department of Development actually do, the lending work and the small business support work. But before we get to that, I'm going to run through what these 4 pillars are and the ways in which Cuyahoga County itself and county government can and should be acting in these areas. So the first area is promoting alignment among the economic development organizations that are active in the county. County government is by no means the only actor here. We have our 59 municipalities, ranging from the city of Cleveland, which is very large, down to some of our very small bedroom suburbs and even a couple of townships. We also have multiple nonprofit organizations active in trade sectors such as manufacturing. We have a regional chamber of commerce. We have Team NEO, which is the regional affiliate of Jobs Ohio. We have workforce organizations. We have our tourism entity, and all these are actors in the economic development ecosystem. When we say promoting alignment, what we mean is ideally all of us would be pulling in the same direction. There would not be a conflict between the work that Cuyahoga County is doing, the work that Team NEO is doing, the work that our municipality is doing. In order to have this kind of alignment, there needs to be some understanding of what's important, and there needs to be some level of coordination of the way we do our work. So that is why we say we would like to work towards, and we believe we must work towards having unified regional economic development priorities, and we must encourage those of us that can provide incentives, which is the county, the municipalities, and Team NEO, to share the work as we work on crafting those incentives so that we're providing the right amount of assistance to businesses when they seek to come here or to grow here. We also are calling out the fact we're all facing the emergence of artificial intelligence, so that we must be part of a regional approach and response to this. And finally, within the county government itself, we must make sure that we are aligning all the county resources to support economic development. This work, for the most part, is done by our elected officials, the county executive, our chief of development, Debbie Berry, I myself as director of development, working with the heads of some of these other organizations, For example, recently, we sat down in a room with the leadership team at Team NEO. The county executive, Matt Dolan, supported by staff, talked about this very topic. And one of the outcomes of that is there will be, later this summer, a meeting involving the heads of some of the major economic development organizations to work on exactly this, on aligning the priorities. So that's, in a nutshell, how we view our first priority and how we view the actions we will take under that. We've provided in the plan that you received by email more specific lists of some of the activities, and we will be reporting to our Economic Development Commission as we go through the year, every quarter, how we're doing on those activities to advance the work. To the chair, I would invite questions as I go through this or when I've finished, whatever your pleasure is.
Are there any questions at this point amongst the committee members?
I have one.
Council President.
So, Mr. Chairman, Director, on the question of alignment, which I very much support. One recommendation that I would make is that where you talk about the various organizations that we're working with, you should include the Aerozone Alliance. The opportunity to create high technology aerospace spin-offs is finally achieving a critical mass, and the Aerozone Alliance is working effectively in partnership with most of these other organizations that you've been talking about, and it's important that we align the Aerozone Alliance efforts into the broader program that we're putting together.
Right. Thank you, Council President. I'm in full agreement. The Aerozone Alliance does excellent economic development work, and we participate and do support that organization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Gallagher.
Councilman.
We're, the Aerozone's out by the airport. The airport's going to be redone. There's another economic development project planned. That was blown up. So it kind of blows up everything we talk about here in economic development. And it seems that because of where it's at. And here you stress working with municipalities. Why wouldn't we work with a municipality? And what would be if we created a JED out there with Cleveland, Brook Park, Berea, Fairview Park, the second largest economic development tract of land in the history of Ohio? Can you tell me why we, Economic Development Lead, did not get involved?
So, Councilman, I need to make sure I understand what project you're talking about.
Well, you got the proposed Brown Stadium for $2.4 billion. You've got the airport for $2 billion. You got the Aerozone kind of ramping up. NASA's taking a little bit of a hit out there, so we don't know what's going to happen. The closing of the IX and the development of that entire area. So you're almost $6 billion of new building and economic development, not counting the over $200 million that the Browns put into my district in Berea with no help other than from the state. It just seems we're late to the party here. I know it's not your fault, and we all know that, the back and forth that went public was unnecessary and quite honestly juvenile. Do we walk away from billions of dollars of economic development just because they're in districts that don't include Cleveland?
So, Councilman, thank you. Setting aside the question of the Browns, where the position of the administration, I think, is clear, and I support that position, we have successfully worked collaboratively with the cities in that area in other ways. And I'd just like to give one example of our work with Brook Park.
Well, wait a minute. What's the position of the administration? Because I don't know. I've seen it move.
So, Councilman, I would defer to those above me for
But you
any more
agree with
detailed statement of that. It is the position of the county executive that the Brown Stadium ought to remain in downtown Cleveland and Dome Stadium be built there. And that is the instructions I have, and have not been
Okay.
given different instructions.
But, but you agree with that?
Councilman, that's the position of the county executive, and we support the position of the county executive.
Well, that's your job, but in reality, I have a different job. I have to look out, not necessarily for my district, but everybody in Cuyahoga County. And this, again, second largest economic development tract of land or projects in the history of the state of Ohio. And the state seems in, but we're not, because we have chosen Cleveland over Brook Park. And I don't have an explanation as to why. I don't understand the rationale. I don't understand the reasoning. I personally know there's not 100 acres of land in downtown Cleveland that could support a dome stadium. I know the airport can't support the dome stadium without at least another $150 million of caisson work outside of what that was going to cost. So there seems to be a story here. And this council is blind to the story. And it would be helpful from the administration to come tell us the story.
So, Councilman, thank you for your comments, and as I said, I will make sure I work with those above me in the administration to make sure that's heard.
Thank you.
I did want to give one quick example of collaborative work with Brook Park. There is a parcel of land that was created in anticipation of airport expansion, where a large number of houses were bought and demolished, creating a vacant parcel of land. That parcel of land lies within the city of Brook Park, and we've been able to work in collaboration with the airport authority and the leadership of Brook Park to promote that vacant land as an opportunity for job-creating development. And I just wanted to give as an example of, despite some of the other controversies underway, we continue to work on specific issues with all of our suburbs.
Right, and I know, and you probably know, Cleveland and Brook Park are still in court over, I think, their original agreement or some faction thereof, not necessarily our problem. But yes, I expect us to be involved in Brook Park. I expect us to be involved in Berea. I expect us to be involved in Lakewood and every other community in this county. And it just seems that people are picking winners and losers. And in the end, the taxpayers of Cuyahoga County will be the loser.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Ms. Simon has joined us, and
I do have a question now that colleague Gallagher brought up the situation with the Brown Stadium. Have you looked at the economic impact of when the Browns move to Brook Park, how that would impact downtown and the rest of the county as from an economic development standpoint, how that would flow, the tax dollars would flow into the county?
Councilman, the county has not done an independent study on that. There were published reports several months ago of some analysis being done, I believe, by the city of Cleveland, indicating there would be loss of revenue. There's not been a separate study done that my department's been involved in or that I'm aware of.
So are you open to doing that? To doing your own study? Because the Cleveland's report did not take into account the money that was being spent toward what they had to do to maintain the stadium and the Browns being there. So that wasn't a real study. It was one-sided. So I'd like to see a study by the county to show what the impact would have. It's a huge investment. It's in the county. There's going to be tax dollars flowing from that. Is there going to be spillover into the hotels, which are right next door downtown? I think it's incumbent upon us to do that. I understand the position of the executive is he only wants it downtown, but here we are, they're going to Brook Park. And so whether we contribute toward that or not is a different issue. I want to see how that's going to impact the county financially, and if it makes sense for council to consider any kind of participation, because we give out loans, we do all kinds of things for projects. Why not this?
Okay. Councilwoman, I will be sure to note that and report that back to those above me.
Who's above you?
The Chief of Integrated Development, the Chief of Staff, and the county.
Who's the
executive.
chief? Who are they?
Chief Berry and Chief of Staff Janice, as well as the county executive.
Okay, so you want to get permission to do to look at what the impact would be when they move to the county proper and economically.
Councilman,
You want
again,
permission to do
while
that.
there's been already some publication of information on that from the city of Cleveland.
I heard that, but I'm asking, I understand the Cleveland did their thing to, it's a one-sided position Cleveland gave because they didn't give the other side of what they spend to maintain that stadium and the Browns. They only said what they're going to lose, but they never did a cost-benefit analysis overall. So I would like to see that coming from here, because as council, we've not had a chance to understand really the actual minutia and nuances of what's going to happen. So whether we like it or not, it's happening. The state is going to give its blessing in whatever form that takes. And so we've got to be ready to look at what impact that's going to have on us. So I would like that done. So if you could, I'll talk to Chief Janice myself, but I think we better start looking at what it's going to do to us and how we can benefit instead of just sitting back and taking it.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Okay, let's
I
move
will
on.
then move on, talking about the 4 pillars of our economic development plan. The second pillar is one we spent some time on earlier this year out at our 3 focus group sessions. Thanks to the Mayors and Managers Association, we set this up, rotating around the county. We heard loud and clear from our suburban mayors and economic development directors a desire for Cuyahoga County, the Department of Development specifically, to continue to be a resource for our suburbs. Many of our suburbs are not able to afford to have deep economic development staff, if any. In a number of our suburbs, the mayor has to also serve as the economic development director. They told us loud and clear they value and count on our being there to talk to them, not just to talk to them about whether the county can give someone money, but also to talk to them about things their city may be able to do to support business growth. And so we do that. We have staff. We were fortunate to be able to hire 3 new staff over the past year, all with experience doing economic development work. We have divided our suburbs up into 3 groups. We are assigning one of our staff members to work directly with each suburb, along with Anthony, Vaughn, and myself, who are always there for them. We will be holding regional meetings over the summer with each of the 3 groups of suburbs. We will be out there with the staff assigned to them. We will be making sure we all know each other. We will be talking about the programs we offer, and we'll also be continuing to listen to the needs that they have for economic development. But beyond that, myself, Vaughn, Anthony, and the assigned staff will continue to be at the other end of the phone for each of our suburbs when they call us, as they do, talking about specific cases. Mayor of Oakwood calls me. Paul, I have an opportunity to bring a company in from California. They're in the medical imaging space. What can you do to help? We are out there. We're out there the next day. We're meeting with the fellow who just flew in from Silicon Valley, helping the mayor pitch to him why he should bring his company to Oakwood Village. We're talking about what the county can do. We're hearing what the company needs. We're coming back and making sure between the workforce system, our friends at Team Neo, what we do ourselves in the city, that we're making the best possible pitch to that company. And we heard loud and clear we need to continue to do that. So in our second pillar, being a resource to the 59 municipalities, our action steps are to continue to get to know and to talk with our counterparts at the City of Cleveland and the other 58 municipalities, to engage with them day by day. One of the areas where we're doing this work is what's called business retention and expansion. And you will hear in a little bit from our staff about how we work with businesses. But the most important point we want to note here is we work as a team with others who do this work. The last thing any business owner wants is to have 5 different government offices call and say, I'd like to come out and sit down with you for an hour to hear what your business needs. No business owner has the time to do 5 different meetings. So we collaborate with our municipal colleagues, with the Team Neo folks, and with others such as Magnet for manufacturers to do this together, to understand what businesses are looking for and to help them find those resources.
Can I ask you a question?
Ms. Simon.
Thank you. Give me an example of you working with what municipality and what project and how this streamlined.
Sure. So as an example, we had the opportunity in the Arizona Alliance District to, along with a number of municipalities there, including Cleveland, as well as several of the suburbs in that district, to pitch a company coming in from out of town to find a location for an advanced manufacturing plant. And so we did those meetings. Another example where we're actually able to help find a solution was a company, again, coming to, sorry, I'm blanking on it, coming out to Maple Heights. It was Famous Supply, where we've ended up doing a loan, needed our help to have financing to refit an empty building to, be useful to them. So we're again, worked with Mayor Blackwell on that, and in this case, we're actually able to provide some funding to the company.
Thank you. Any other? Mr. Gallagher.
Paul, I just wanted to thank you for what you and your team do. The difference is night and day from what we used to have since we started, and I've noticed a big difference when you came in, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
I have two other comments about the climate, about the economic development plan, and this is probably as good a time as any. Number one is that the previous iterations have included an aspect of climate change in the plan, and I haven't seen anything about that in this plan.
Okay.
And I think there's two aspects to it. Number one is that the dealing with climate is going to create economic development opportunities, and we should be aware of them, looking for them, and take advantage of them. And the second part is that we should pay attention to the climate impacts of the economic development projects that we're working on, and trying to put these projects together in a way that's as sustainable as possible.
Yes. Thank you, Council President. And I would like to note Cuyahoga County does have a sustainability strategic plan, which I know is in the process of being presented to Council. We work very closely with the sustainability leadership of the county, with Chief Janita, with the director, and we are in the process of adjusting our economic development lending programs such that sustainability will be specifically considered when we do our economic development lending in the two ways you noted. Number one, in making sure that we're providing the right financing, taking into account how the sustainability issues affect business, but secondly, that we're encouraging development that's done in a way that advances our climate goals.
That sounds good, and I think some brief reference to that in this plan would be a good thing.
Thank you.
The second thing is that the plan needs more continuity from what we've done in the past. I've tended to bring this up almost every year, that there should be, and especially with this plan, because you did that strategic planning process, and this plan looks quite a bit different than what we've seen in the past, and some commentary. Number one, about how this plan relates to the previous plans, in what ways is it a continuation, and in what ways does it break new ground, and secondly, a recap of what we accomplished during the past year in in the implementation of the current plan and where that leaves us going forward.
Great. Council President, those will be added.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, let's move on.
Okay, I'm actually going to go to the fourth pillar because the third one is where other staff will come in to support me. Fourth pillar is workforce. This is an area that's tremendously important to our economy and yet an area where we don't directly carry out the work. That is because there is a official workforce development board, the Cleveland-Cuyahoga County Workforce Development Board. It recently renamed itself Greater Cleveland Works, but it is still the Regional Workforce Development Board. The county executive appoints half the members of that board, the mayor appoints the other half, and I can tell you the executive takes that very seriously. A meeting was held just last week with the leadership of the Workforce Development Board, setting up a very thorough process for bringing forward good board members, which then would be reviewed by the county executive before they're appointed. Also, I have the privilege of serving on that board. The executive has named me. I'm on the executive committee. So we have indirect influence over the work of that board, but its work is so important. We engage in a couple of ways. First of all, the county does provide some funding. Councilwoman Simon's committee hears every year an allocation of funding for educational programming, which is an important part of its funding, not least because it's non-federal, and so it's a sure thing. But we also have significant connections with the work of the Workforce Development Organization, Ohio Means Jobs. In almost every one of our business attraction campaigns, we have representation from Ohio Means Jobs because that's where businesses are looking for answers about how will I find the workforce I need to hire to fill the slots in my business. We also have significant connections in planning and with Director Merriman, the work for the Health and Human Services, because the customers of the Workforce Development Board are in many cases the same families that we're serving through our social service programs. So we have extensive overlap there in the ways in which the Workforce Development Board prepares people for gainful employment, supports them in getting that employment, and helps them remain employed. So this is our fourth pillar, and I've indicated some of the ways in which the county indirectly helps to influence and guide the work of our Workforce Development Board.
I have a question for you.
Councilman.
I may be jumping ahead, but in the economic development lending page,
Yes.
and you're talking about workforce now, it said there was 1,590 new jobs created from 2021 to 2025.
Yes.
Is there any data on the average salary and what the retention of those jobs are?
Chair, we do have information on the earnings, which we'll provide, and we actually collect every year at year end information that for many of our companies lets us identify who the actual workers are. So to the extent we have that information, we can actually look and see if workers have been retained year to year.
So then you do a follow-up with employers regarding this?
The employers that have active loans with us are required to report every single year for the duration of a period of time, and they actually give us a complete roster. We don't reveal the actual names or social security numbers, but they give us complete information on who's been hired.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And then I do wish to turn to our third pillar, which is supporting regional business retention, attraction, and expansion.
Yes.
In this area.
Director, we have
Yes.
one.
I'm sorry, Chair.
So, actually not a question. Before you move on from workforce, just a comment that I think this administration has done a very good job of getting workforce development and the other aspects of economic development more integrated and working together and seeing them as parts of a whole, and I think that's a good thing.
Thank you. Thank you, President. So in the area of what we do to support business retention, attraction, and expansion, here's where we turn to what we actually do, what the staff does at the Department of Development. As I said, we have 6 staff who are actively engaging with businesses and partners every day. Myself, Vaughn, Anthony, 3 of our 4 staff. We have additional staff who support that work behind the scenes with some processing, paperwork, the kinds of things we have to do to make our programs work. There are 2 main programs, neither of which is brand new, but are very important in this work. One is our direct lending program, and the other is a support for small business. So at this point, I'm going to turn first to Anthony Stella to talk about our lending programs, and then Vaughn Johnson will talk about our small business.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, committee members. Anthony Stella with the Department of Development. We'll be talking a little bit about our, as Paul referenced, business retention, expansion, attraction through some of the direct lending. So here's a definition of the business retention, expansion, attraction, sort of listed in order of how we would focus on it. Number 1 being retention. Obviously, it's most important to maintain the businesses we have, retain those jobs, and keep them here in the county. It's easier to keep those businesses than to get out and find new ones. Expansion work, which is a big part of what we do all the time through our lending, providing some capital access, workforce, as Paul had mentioned, and then some site and infrastructure solutions. So these are sort of the big 3 things companies need when they're looking to expand. And then I'll go into the ways we assist with capital. And then attraction, obviously, this is any new businesses or industries looking to come in that may align with some of our assets or align with the sectors where we're already very competitive and strong. And so what we have here is an overview of our lending programs, and a lot of these are the same, and there's been a little bit of a tweak to it. So in that first column we have there is the financing for real estate deals. So within that we have a redevelopment and modernization loan program, which is a program to help companies or developers take an old building, renovate it to use it for a more modern use. There's a good number of those buildings, and we've done a number of these loans over the years. Place-based mixed-use loan program is a very common loan program we have. We've done deals a lot in Cleveland, but throughout the county. The place-based mixed-use is exactly what it sounds like. There's a mix of uses within that development. Oftentimes it's a residential, and there may be a commercial use on the first floor. There could be office use, hotel, or other type of commercial job creation use, which helps us make neighborhoods and urban areas a more competitive and to provide development. And you'll see the third program, which is a new program that's beginning to roll out, the Transit-Oriented Development Loan Program, which sort of plays into the sustainability that was mentioned. This is a way to utilize our transit asset throughout the county, whether it's high-frequency bus lines, BRT, or any of the rail infrastructure, to try to encourage development near those transit nodes, which helps reduce the amount of new infrastructure needed and can help reduce greenhouse gases for travel, trying to put jobs and or residents right on those transit lines to create some density around them. The second column we have there is what people might consider as the traditional economic development lending, business growth loan program. So that's a program a business can use when they're looking to expand. Maybe they need some new equipment, they need to build out their facility. We can come in to assist that. And again, all of our programs, and I'll go into a little more detail on the next slide, are gap loan programs. We don't fund entire projects. There's always a senior loan ahead of us, and we prefer for there to be a senior loan because they can do a lot of they can do a lot of the work that we don't have the capacity for. The large-scale attraction loan program, again, this plays into the previous slide, business attraction. We may have different types of incentives, different loan amounts, different interest rates that we may be able to offer to a new company coming into the region, bringing new jobs. And again, the transit-oriented development program kind of belongs in both of those sort of pillars there. Number one, because we're looking at transit-oriented development, not just as what maybe urban planners may consider as a TOD project where it's a mixed-use project, but also any large job creators that may be on the transit lines to help people maybe who don't have a personal vehicle or don't want to use it to get to these job sites. And then in the third, again, is some more business attraction incentives. So again, we include that same program there, the large-scale special attraction program. So again, this is anyone bringing some new jobs, especially sustainable wage jobs into the region. We may consider some additional, whether it's a higher loan amount, better interest rate, or some other combination. And then we have the US EPA Brownfield Revolving Loan Program, which is those are federal funds that we administer, where we can help, with the brownfield, which is essentially there had been a previous use on the site, which is common for most of the vacant sites and vacant buildings in the county. So a developer or a business can use the program to help clean up anything that there might be, say, within the soil or in the building, if there's asbestos or maybe lead-based paint, to help remediate those sites, to clean them up, make them ready for employment. And throughout all the programs, we will be working with sustainability to maybe create some additional incentives within the programs for any type of sustainability. That's still an ongoing progress. And on the next slide here, I'm going to take you through just some of the details on the loan programs. This body reviews all of them other than those under the threshold that go to Board of Control, which is now $750,000. But essentially, this is what we do is gap financing for total economic impact lending. So this is job creation, asset creation, anything bringing economic activity. So our loan program is a gap, meaning there's other lenders. We're filling sort of the last source of money needed, a minimum of about $150,000 up to $2 million. Depending on the program and job creation, and the total size of the project helps us size the loan appropriately. We can never fund more than 40% of a project, and our collateral must be 90% loan to value or below. The developer or business should be putting in 10% equity, cash equity coming into the deal, and all loans need to be fully underwritten, which means all the sources need to be understood so that we can underwrite it. There need to be guarantees, either corporate, personal, or both, depending on the strength of the deal and what might be needed to help us secure that loan. And also, we're offering below market rate, fixed rate financing. We're currently at 5.5%. And it's very attractive to these businesses and developers to have a fixed rate, to know what the rate will be. Commercial lending right now is getting pretty high. It's anywhere from 8 to about 11% on a lot of these deals. So to have a source of some lower cost capital is very necessary, especially in the current economy.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Could you explain the rationale for selecting $2 million as the average maximum amount in the loan?
Yeah, the rationale just has to do with the overall size of our loan pot. So we don't want to overextend ourselves in any one specific loan, just so that we can make sure that we're diversified enough in our projects.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the question. And the last slide here is a little bit of our performance going back 4 years. So from 2021 through to today. We've, through our programs, have done 32 economic development loans, which have, which have been approved, which total $30.7 million of lending. And as was mentioned earlier, 1,590 new jobs created. So, as you can see, our loans are having a pretty big impact out there. We've been able to put $30.7 million into development. And, when these loans repay, we're able to, to put that money back out so that we can continue, getting development, which kind of also leads back to that astute question about capping the loans at $2 million. Should you have a default or something, you don't want a big chunk of, our money out there that isn't, able to be returned. So,
I have
that-
another question now.
yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Is there any data available on the economic impact of the return on the investment for the $30.7 million in loans?
As far as whatever metric you need, I'm sure we have it and I can get for you.
I
Thank
have a
you.
question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of the 32 loans that you put out, are any of them in default?
I have a separate sheet here that I can take a look at. We had, did I bring that with me? We recently did a portfolio report at one of our meetings, CCIC. Oh, I have right here. What I have is I have our default rate of all of our loans, kind of all of our economic development loans going back to when the charter started, January of 2010. And so let me take a look. I can kind of give you the bottom line number. So what makes up what we would consider to be non-performing is 2.1% of the entire loan portfolio. And non-performing also includes, there's one loan or two that sort of come in late, sort of on a regular basis. So those are still considered non-performing even though they are paying. So it's about 2.1%. And what might be considered of troubled loans is about 3%. It's a very small percentage, and I can provide these numbers to this committee. This was prepared by our loan portfolio manager, and it was presented at the CCCIC meeting, the annual meeting in May, and shared with that committee. So I can make sure that this report makes it to this committee as well.
And are any of the 32 loans in this most recent group that was discussed, are any of those loans in that category?
I would have to look into that further and be able to get back. I'm not exactly sure how many are within, say, that last 4 year, but I can get that and provide that when I get that updated information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council President.
As a follow-up, if I can, Mr. Chair, and we'll have a list of the actual entities, right, that you'll give to us, not just numbers.
Yes, we have that information, so I think we should
see
be able
that.
to get that.
Well,
Yes.
because everything was public going in,
Yes.
so everything should
Yep.
be public going out.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay, thank you. You can get that
thank you.
for
I
us.
appreciate the questions.
Gallagher.
On the brownfield, that you can recollect, have we ever turned down a brownfield project?
Not that I'm aware of. There's sort of two levels of approval on brownfield projects. There is a federal approval that we have to have. It has to meet certain requirements, and then there's sort of an internal. As long as we have EPA, the US EPA approval, we will usually, honor that and try to fund the project through that program.
We haven't basically found a project that you couldn't clean up.
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
If I make quick addition to this, Councilman Paul Hertig, In our regular loan program, as Anthony has said, we are fortunate to have a revolving loan fund that does have a balance in it, so we've been able to assist every eligible project. There was a situation using some of our due to ARPA money where we had to give awards on a competitive basis. We were able to fund most of the projects, but due to limited funds, we could not give as much as each project requested. But for the most part, we are able to loan our funds to everyone who's eligible.
Right, point being, as bad as in industrial areas we're in, there's not a spot we can't clean up, that we know of.
That we know of, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
It's always, how much money it'll take to do it, yep. Any other questions for me before I turn it over to our Deputy Director, Vaughn Johnson? Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, Council President. My name is Vaughn Johnson. I'm the Deputy Director for Economic Development and the lead for the Office of Small Business. And it is my pleasure to share with you how the Office of Small Business supports the strategic plan, and in particular, pillar number 3 of business retention, expansion, and attraction. So the first slide there goes over the introduction of the Office of Small Business, and you will notice that the word small is stylized so that the ALL is capitalized, and that is a reminder that the Office of Small Business is for all small businesses, not a particular group of small businesses. In Cuyahoga County, we know that there are over 30,000 small businesses with an annual payroll of about $19 billion. So it's critically important for us to be able to provide the Office of Small Business to support those businesses' growth and activity. So why was the Office of Small Business created in the first place? It's relatively simple: to make it easier for small businesses to be able to navigate the vast ecosystem of resources, as well as the internal departments of the county if they want to register as a vendor or become certified to do business with the county. We serve as a centralized connector for small business resources, as I mentioned, navigating those resources, and also advocate as a champion for small business interests. And they will help us also in working with those small businesses to develop innovative products and programs. And one of the ways that I look at the Office of Small Business is we are a concierge service. And I'm going to get more into that, what that actually means, because we don't make small business or micro loans to small businesses. But what we do is, if you've ever been to a really fine hotel and you go to the concierge station, you can get just about anything you need from that concierge. And I'll show you what that looks like on these next few slides. So this is a snapshot of the small business resource ecosystem, just a snapshot. We work with at least 60 different resource partners. Some are capital partners, some are resource partners. Our capital partners are those that the county funds through a competitive RFQ process. The resource partners are ones that we don't fund, but they've been fully vetted as resource partners that we can work with. So here's the illustration for a small business that needs assistance. So they're thinking to themselves, hey, I need assistance. I'm not sure where to go. I'm familiar with some of these organizations, but I have no idea or limited information on which organization offers which program. So I'm not really sure. And it adds to the confusion in the ecosystem and that business owner's frustration. So what the Office of Small Business does is it demystifies that process. So now, instead of the business owner trying to reach out to all of those resource partners and trying to identify what they do, now that small business can reach out to the Office of Small Business. We will schedule a 30-minute listening session with that small business, and then we will huddle as a team to determine which one or more resource partner is most applicable to reach the objectives of that small business. And then we go back to that small business. We ask for permission to make a warm introduction to that ecosystem partner. Then we go back and make a warm introduction through an email with that business's permission. And then we stay engaged with that business through their life cycle. If they choose to, we will stay engaged. And then we help that business at every single stage that they're at. So whether a business is a startup or an ideation, or they're trying to grow, or they need access to capital, or procurement and contracting, which is really, really big right now, the Office of Small Business can assist in all of those areas. And just to give you an example of some of the key performance measures that how the county has supported small business, and more recently, the Office of Small Business, almost 2,700 businesses have been assisted, over 2,500 hours of technical assistance facilitated, and almost $13 million in total funding and grants, loans, and technical assistance to these small businesses. And with that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Through the chair. Mr. Johnson, good morning.
Good morning.
Is there ever an instance where you tell a business that they're not quite ready for this step? And is there some other direction you would point them to for development? Or do you reach out to our partners for everybody, regardless of what stage they're in with their business?
Through the chair to the council person, that's a great question. And we get that all the time, so thank you for asking that. Part of the listening session, in addition to listening, we open up a dialogue with that business. And sometimes, on some occasions, we can actually direct that business right there, depending on the complexity of what it is that they're looking for. We don't fancy ourselves to be certified business advisors, but we know enough about small business, all of us do, especially our new team. We know enough about small businesses that we can make some direction there. But in all cases, we want to make an introduction to a small business partner, particularly a capital partner. And the reason for that is that we can partner them with a business advisor, a certified business advisor that can serve as their sounding board for their thoughts, their ideas, and they can work with that business advisor in a variety of capacities. So our ultimate goal is to get them partnered with a business advisor.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Well, that's a great program you have.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
One follow-up question. Are the business advisors within county government, or are these outside people that we would connect them to that act as consultants?
Yeah, through the chair to the council president, great question. Thank you for that. All of the business advisors that we make warm introductions to, they are either one of our capital partners or either they are a resource partner. None of those advisors are county staff people.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Chair, Paul Herdig again. As we've had the dialogue this morning, there's been a number of areas where we've been asked to consider adding something into the plan. And it's been our practice over the past several years to work with council staff to prepare a recommended amendment to be added into the plan. And I would state that we're ready to do that as well in this case.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Is there anything else from your group?
No, sir.
No more questions? All right, then. I'll make a motion then to move this item to the full body of council for a second reading. I'm told it can go for a full 3 readings. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, thank you.
Resolution 2025-0213, authorizing an amendment to the Economic Development Fund place-based mixed-use loan with 515 Euclid Avenue Residential LLC for the benefit of the Beacon Project, located at 515 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, for the period August 31st, 2017 through July 31st, 2025, to extend the time period to July 31st, 2028, and amend the repayment terms. No additional funds required.
Good morning, Chairman and Committee. Anthony Stella, Department of Development, speaking to you again. I'm here to discuss a modification to this existing loan that we have, and I have a presentation here. I'll be able to take you through what we're asking, and the reason we're here is because this change that we're being asked to make is a material change, and as such, that material change was reviewed by the CCIC back in May, and they unanimously approved our recommendations for this change. And now it comes to this body for full approval, being that there is a material change to the loan. So the project we're going to be talking about is called the Beacon, and I'll take you through the presentation where I'll talk about the project, a little bit about the developer, and we have Brian Midlick, who is the CEO for Stark Enterprises, is here, and Casey Calvetta also is here in attendance as well. And I appreciate their patience as they were number 2 on the agenda today, and we'll go through it. So this is kind of a little overview of what I'll be discussing today. I'll talk a little bit more about the developer, as I just stated, what their request was to the county, the rationale that we used to take a look at that, some of information about our county loan, the little bit of the analysis that we went through, and the collateral. So Stark Enterprises, again, they're have nearly 50 years experience doing development, multi-billion-dollar portfolio of residential, retail, mixed-use properties, plenty of developments throughout the county, and we're going to specifically speak about this specific project here in Cleveland, which is called the Beacon Project, located right at 515 Euclid Avenue, right over here. At the time it was built, it's one of the largest new residential developments in Cleveland. It helped bring some new 187 new units of housing. That was back in 2017 when the loan was reviewed by CCIC and recommended for approval. Then it came through this body. We eventually closed that loan for $2 million. And some of the rationale that was used as we made that loan and as we continue to want to participate in it, 3 specific areas. There's some new jobs created there in the lower level retail space and some of the operations of that asset. And some of the leverage. This has brought some new residents to downtown Cleveland, which helps support other businesses, retail business, and helps bring new life to the city. And also it's a example of transit-oriented development, as we had spoke about earlier. This is built directly on the BRT health line, which is a big investment of RTA. There's a stop right outside of the building. So what they're asking us to do is a slight modification on the loan. The loan has a current maturity date, meaning with a balloon payment. The balance as of May 2nd was just over $1.7 million. So that loan would be due on that date. And what they're asking is they're going to be paying half of that prior to that date, approximately half. And then the remaining 3 years of payments are going to amortize fully. The remaining payments will amortize fully over the next 3 years. And we're resetting the rate to a market rate. So what we used at the time was the Wall Street Journal Prime plus 1%. So the county will be making some additional interest income on that remaining amount that we'll finance over 3 years. And this will also, that maturity date will line up with their existing senior loan, which will have a balloon payment on that date, but will be will be fully paid at that point. So these are the terms. So when I spoke to the senior loan and to our loan, after they pay half of their current principal balance, what'll be left is approximately $858,000, and we'll have an interest rate of 8.5% and financed over 3 years. And if you can see on the left is their senior existing loan, which will have a maturity date on the same day. And at that point, they'll, or prior to that point, they'll have to refinance that existing debt. But the county's loan won't have a balloon payment, will fully amortize. And the collateral analysis that we take a look at to make sure that we're still, we're still within county's established parameters, and we're at 87.3% based on the stabilized value, which actually used the existing net operating income of the asset and using the existing cap rates for projects that we see in Cleveland. So we're going to remain in that second position where we've been, and there will also be a personal guarantee from Robert Stark, which has been in place since the beginning of the loan to backstop for anything else. But that asset is currently stabilized. It's cash flowing well. It was fully analyzed in the CCIC committee, and they recommended approval as it was presented. I can open it up for questions now, or if anyone would like to hear from the Stark group.
A question for you.
Yes.
If the original term period in 2017 was for 7 years, what's the breakdown of interest and principal that has been paid back to the county thus far, if the balance is still over 1.7 million?
Sure. So the original amount was $2 million, so that 1.7, represents the principal balance, so that difference is what was paid. I believe I believe there was a long period of interest-only payments on this loan. This project during COVID, and then there was some follow-up, some incidents that were happening downtown. The project had struggled a little bit, as a lot of projects were struggling at the time. So it had been on an interest only for an extended amount of time to help to help it gain some traction and to help them release some of that space. Are there any other questions? Okay, Chairman.
Has the borrower completed payments to any of the other lenders?
Yes. The borrower is, they're current on all their other lenders, and we also have, we've let the other lenders know of what we're doing, and they approve of the changes we're making to our loan as well. That's.
The term of the original loan stated the borrower would create or retain 92 jobs within the 3 years and maintain those jobs for 10 years. But the new term states that 18 jobs have been created. Since the new term proposes extending the loan period from 7 to 10 years, is there an expectation that the remainder of those 92 jobs will be created within that 10-year period?
I'm not sure where the 92 came from. Was that
Got the original.
in the original? Okay. I'd have to take a look of where that number would have come from in the original deal. I'll have to take a look at that. I believe there's another space on the retail level which will be leased out. I don't think it will be 92. I'd have to look at that number, but I appreciate the question.
That's in the original.
Okay, let me take a look at that and see. Because that seems like a lot for the type of project, but I'll take a look at that and see what it is.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, I had to step out. So this amendment came pursuant to the legislation we passed for modification that had to come back to council. Is this part of that? It came back as a modification, right?
Correct,
Through
yes, so-
CCIC.
Yes, and it would have been introduced at the last meeting. Is that?
Okay.
Is that, do I understand the question?
Yep.
Yes, this is that request. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, sort of, through the chair. I would be interested to hear any kind of updates on the success of this project. Are we at full capacity? What's
Sure,
the
I can,
financial-
I
yeah.
can invite somebody from Stark to talk to that a little, in a little more detail.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Brian. Just make sure to state your name.
Hi, Brian Millick with Stark Enterprises, COO, not CEO, but I'll take the promotion if it's there. But appreciate the question. So as Mr. Stella mentioned, we did struggle. We delivered this, we started in 2017. We delivered at the end of 2019, right into COVID. We were wrapping up the balance. So that was, we struggled a little bit with the lease up through the beginning. We've done a lot to continue to invest in the project beyond. After we delivered, we added another amenity, a pool, and an additional backyard. We invested over $1 million in doing that. And as Mr. Stella, the restaurants and retail on the first floor struggled. We struggled to fill that last space. We actually do now have a tenant for that, so we're investing some additional capital in that. It's a regional bank that's going to be taking that first floor space, so putting some more jobs there on the first floor. And then from a residential perspective, we're right around 94% occupied right now, which is right close to our stabilized number. We have not seen, and I think in general, the downtown market to CBD has not, seen the rent growth that was expected. So we're pretty close to where we were on our original pro forma rents and projected rents. But we are starting to see some positive traction on that as we've seen a larger push to return to office and other things, where more people are coming downtown. I think, even for me anecdotally, I experience traffic now, which I haven't really experienced in the last 5 years. So we're starting to see some of that show up too in, the traffic at our restaurants, the traffic and, the leasing that's coming through. So, we're doing well. The structure that the Economic Development Department put forth, I think is a pretty intelligent and strategic. We're making a substantial pay down, and then we're using accelerated amortization to amortize it. It's going to be coterminous with our existing first mortgage, so we'll be paying that off. There will be no balance left here. And it uses, the majority of the cash flow that's going to be coming from the project, remaining with, the necessary coverages and stuff. So I think it's a good structure, which, and puts it at a pretty fair interest rate as well.
Thank you for that status report. I hope that those are all great indicators that we're recovering. Traffic is good.
We are definitely trending up, that's for sure, relative to where we were a few years ago. That back half of 2020 was pretty concerning.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That was rough for everybody. Any other questions? Thanks for that update. That was.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Any additional questions on the project?
Additional questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And this can go for 3 readings.
That's correct, yes.
So I'll make a motion to move this item to the full body for second reading. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any miscellaneous business?
Through the chair, would you add my name?
Okay. Add the councilwoman's name. Any miscellaneous business that we have? I don't believe so. Then, in that case, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.